So, this past week was a big one for India's economy. We saw some really fascinating policy moves impacting pretty much everything, from global trade to the future of microchips. Let's dive right in and unpack what it all means.
It all really boils down to this one huge question that every single country has to grapple with, right? How do you actually build for the future? Do you throw the doors open to the world? Or do you maybe build up some walls to protect what you've got at home? Do you make the rules tougher, or do you make it easier to get things done?
Well, this week, India's answer seems to be a little bit of everything. They're performing this incredibly delicate balancing act. It's like they're walking a tightrope, pushing and pulling in different directions all at the same time to find that perfect economic sweet spot.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about trade. This is where you can really see that balancing act in plain sight. On one hand, they're basically rolling out the red carpet for their exporters, but on the other hand, they're putting up some fences to shield their own local industries.
And this really just lays it all out, doesn't it? You've got this constant push and pull right here side by side. On one side, you've got these huge new opportunities, like getting duty-free access into Australia. And on the other, you see these protective moves for really important domestic players in steel and even honey.
Let's just zoom in for a second on one of those boosts for exporters. We're talking about a 2.75% interest relief for small and medium-sized businesses. Now, that number might not sound massive, but for a small business owner, that is a direct shot in the arm. It's real money that makes it cheaper to get the financing they need to grow and compete.
And by the way, if you're hearing this term interest subvention and your eyes are glazing over, don't worry. It's really just a fancy way of saying the government is stepping in to help pay for part of your loan's interest. So yeah, for a small business, this is a huge deal. It frees up cash and helps make their products more affordable on the global market.
But see, while they're helping exporters go on offense, they're also playing some serious defense back home. They're putting restrictions on importing a key ingredient for making steel, all to protect their own steel producers from getting undercut by cheap foreign competition. And they're doing something similar with honey, setting a minimum price to make sure local beekeepers can actually survive. So the message is clear. It's not just about selling more stuff abroad, it's about making sure the home team is strong.
All right, so moving on from trade to industry. And guess what? We see the exact same balancing act here. It's this fascinating mix of let's do it ourselves and let's team up with the rest of the world. So here's that do-it-yourselves part in action. India is getting really serious about building its own semiconductor ecosystem, and this incentive scheme is already showing real, tangible progress. We're seeing designs getting taped out, which is basically the moment of truth when you send that final blueprint off to the factory to actually get made. Plus, they're filing patents. I mean, this is exactly how you build a high-tech industry from the ground up. And then, at the very same time, look at this. They're deepening their global partnerships. This trade deal with Australia is an absolute game changer. 100% of Indian goods can get into Australia now with zero customs duties. We're talking everything from textiles to auto parts. That is a massive door just swinging wide open for manufacturers.
Okay, let's switch gears and look at the world of finance. And you probably guessed it, we're seeing that same theme pop up again, making rules stricter for some while making life easier for others. So check this out. The market regulator is basically telling merchant bankers, the big firms that handle IPOs, that they need to have more skin in the game. They're seriously bumping up the minimum amount of capital these guys need to have on hand, and they're phasing it in over the next few years. It's all about making sure these really important financial gatekeepers are solid enough to handle any big shocks to the market.
And it's not just about the money either. There's a whole push for better governance all around. Compliance officers at investment funds now have to get certified. Auditors are getting new marching orders on how to spot any funny business. But, and here's the balance part, at the same time, the government is opening new regional offices to spread things out and actually speed up all the corporate paperwork. So you've got stricter rules but also faster processes. Kinda cool, right? This whole idea of stability even trickles down to regular people, to everyday savers. The government decided to keep the interest rates on small savings plans exactly the same. So if you've got money in something like the Public Provident Fund, you know exactly what to expect. In a world that can feel pretty chaotic, that kind of predictability is a really big deal for millions of families, and it builds a lot of confidence.
Okay, we've looked at trade, industry, and finance. So what's the bottom line? What does all of this policymaking actually mean for you? Let's get right to the key takeaways.
So here's the cheat sheet. If you're an exporter, you need to be looking into that 2.75% interest break. That's real cash on the table. If you're an importer, you've got to be aware of new restrictions. If you're in finance, you've got some serious deadlines coming up for these new rules. And pretty much every business out there needs to figure out which new government office they're supposed to file their paperwork with. These aren't just abstract headlines. These are things that have a real impact right now.
And that brings us full circle, right back to where we started. India is walking this incredible tightrope, opening up versus protecting, adding rules versus cutting red tape. It's a huge bet on how to build a strong, resilient, modern economy. So the big question for all of us to watch is, which way will the scales tip next? The push to go global or the pull to protect what's at home?